Okay, I think we're live. Welcome. Welcome, beautiful people. Let me move this microphone here. And hello, hello, hello. What a wonderful time. So first, before I get into anything, we're going to be experiencing a lot of solar activity, which is going to cause lots of weather cycles to occur. If you're in an area that might consider things to be a calamity, then please try to have faith and try to be comfortable in any fears that might be arising. And I'm not sure which countries or areas will be affected by this. I imagine mostly island places and coastal regions, we could say. And my heart's with you guys. So, oh shoot, my computer is about to run out of batteries, apparently. Plug that in. It does help to plug your computer in if you're going to stream, apparently. So today I wanted to talk about the statement that Jesus made about how you'll understand, you'll know them by the fruit they offer. And I want to go kind of in depth with what that really means and why that's important. And if at the end of that there are questions or anything like that, we can go through that. So for now, I'm going to hide the comments, and we'll just see what happens. But of course, if anyone has anything to add or any questions, as always, please throw them into the comments, and we'll go from there. I've been having a lovely day. Lots of introspection, as always. And what I understood is we are learning to see as gods would see. And this may sound egotistical. It might sound like we're raising ourselves above, but really what I mean by it, and why I titled the video the way I did, is we're learning to see with the equality that gods would see fellows. Right? So, just for example, when Jesus was talking to Pilate, which I've talked about a few times on the channel, it's a really good example. It's very easy, very simple. Jesus just says, you don't have power over me other than what is given to you by me or by the Father, right? Like there isn't power over each other here. And that was the main teaching, is that there's no power. So there is no power dynamic. Like the power dynamic we believe is there is not there. When I say we believe as humans that, say, another human could imprison us or something, or take from us something. But that's not really true. And so I wanted to talk about how all of life is a reflection of our investment into one of these trees, either the tree of his life or the tree of corruption, or in the Bible, they call it evil. Really what they're talking about in that is the tree of ego. Technically, they're talking about how we have within us the capacity to offer fruits and receive fruits from the tree of life, his life, the Christ life. Or we can choose to receive fruits from any other source. We're not relegated or stuck to any of that type of thing. However, as we awaken and become more harmonious, I guess, with the Christ light, we notice that the fruits on offer, like we're always consuming as a being. You don't really do anything other than consume the consciousness around you, right? That makes sense? Uh, you sustain yourself based on the consciousness that you're investing yourself into, if that makes sense. So as you invest yourself into consciousness of any kind, you then receive the rewards or reap the benefits of that consciousness, that vibration. And so you'll know them by the fruits they offer, which essentially means when they offer you spoiled fruit, like we're all always offering each other meals of ourselves. We're all always saying, hey, come, drink of my life. When you're talking to someone, that's what you're doing. You're saying, come, drink of my life and my experience and tell me how it tastes, right? And when our experience is clouded by darkness or sadness or confusion, our experience is like tainted a bit. And you'll know them by their fruits, essentially, is meaning that the fruits they offer you are either of like peace, love, mercy, wisdom, and truth, or they're of something else. And when they're of something else, then they aren't fruits that we would use to sustain ourselves. And the next part of it is that what we use to sustain ourselves, what we consume, is what we then use to build what many call Solomon's temple or the inner temple. This is the kingdom of heaven, basically. And when we build the kingdom of heaven from a place of like lack and fear, like it can't hold itself up. It's built on quicksand. Jesus would say it's built on sand. And I think in Matthew's writings that's shown. But the idea is that the kingdom is built inside of you based on the fruits you're consuming, right? So when you're consuming content, works of any kind, you're always wondering, or you should, if you want to be conscious and responsible as a creator being, you want to be aware of what you're consuming, why you're consuming it, and what does it offer you as far as advancement or expansion. At this time, we have so many spiritual people talking about so many different things, and lots of stuff that's coming out into the world is like totally just not true. Essentially, it's just not true. A lot of it. The world has gone on for many cycles, right? And in all of these cycles, the prophets and people of the time that were influenced into fear paradigms have said, oh, it's the end of the world right now. And the same thing's happening right now. People thinking it's the end of the world. No, it's not. It's not. The world is meant to awaken, and the Christ is meant to resurrect. And it is already done. So, any type of weird, creepy stuff on offer by anyone is a fabrication, basically. There are certainly different entities that want to sort of take control over things and do what they want to do. But at the end of the day, it's not really relevant to the precession of the equinoxes or the precession of the Earth in its cosmological timekeepingness. Like, it's sort of like a giant clock. Like, humanity is now awakening because it was dormant. And we're not able to not awaken. So we literally will either awaken or end up just dying asleep. And that's okay. Like, even those who die asleep will just go to their next thing. They'll continue on to their next mission or their next whatever. There is no like issue with that necessarily. Most of us, though, feel we're stuck here. The reason that the primary reason we feel so stuck is because we forgot that nothing could stick you. Like, there are a lot of negative influencers and people talking about like different programs and things that are set up to like hold souls and move them into prison places and do these things. That stuff is not real. But if the soul like agrees to all that and believes in all of that, then that's really what will be experienced. In other words, if God created everything and God created you, then how could that, which is all powerful and all knowing, somehow be succumbed or oppressed by technology? Right? Like it's intrinsic in the question is sort of insanity. Like, God could not do that. God would not create things to then be like manipulated by things that are not God. Like, God doesn't understand any of that. In other words, all of those other ideas are not real. They're illusions. And all corrupted fruit causes entropy because it's born from fear. So in every moment, we're sort of offering this meal to other people, and we're sort of offering them like fresh, good fruit, or we're offering them like diseased, rotten fruit, fear. We're doing that all the time, and we're doing it with ourself all the time. And what we're meant to notice now is just quite specifically where we lay in this. Are we here for love, or are we here for some other shit? That's really the question. If you're on this channel and listening and paying attention to yourself and how you feel, probably your main goal is just to have some peace. Like peace with yourself, right? And the way we obtain peace with ourselves is by offering ourselves good fruit, not diseased or evil fruit, which means basically giving ourselves permission, giving ourselves space to be what we want to be, not to succumb to pressures, not to try to be something we're not, to be honest and to be transparent and authentic. And if we're not doing that, that's not probably going to last very long. It's going to feel somehow shitty. It's not going to work out. And it may not have anything to do with anything external. It just doesn't work. It's not working. And that's why. when most of the beings here, a good 50% or so, probably more than 50%, are looking to attain a Christ-like status. Like, that's what the soul recalls as true. And it has reference to the Christ here from the biblical and religious tellings, and not just Jesus the Christ, but the Christ in the forms that it came prior in Egyptian or, prior even mythology. It's the same story, and we're attempting to learn it so we can be it. And it doesn't mean we speak like Jesus. Blessed be those who are meek, for they shall carry the earth, which of course is true. However, the truth of these things are in their true deepest meaning, as in, to actually be meek and humble in one's life day to day is a different thing than to just proclaim on occasion on Sundays that I'm meek here. To drink of his life instead of drinking and eating of the world is representative of the initiate or adept's ability to sustain themselves from the consciousness without consuming, without bastardizing it into material consumption. These are sort of old, ancient, and magician teachings. What a lot of people don't realize is that the Bible and all of the major religious works were created by magicians to aid kings and monarchs. That's what it was. None of the stuff written is precisely true. None of it. Some of it is true, but it's not written to be precisely true. It's written to indicate the knowledge of the Gnostics and the magicians of the time to be transmuted and sent to times past or times later. It's not about what everyone thinks it's about, more or less. And all corrupted fruit will cause us to build in fear, which causes entropy. So whatever we build in fear will disassemble itself in fear. It's always the case. Always the case. You can see it in anything ever made out of lack. It comes and then falls away. And when we look at ancient temples, for example, they stick around, right? They're made with the truth of God in the heart, and then they stick around, they last. And that's really why. It's that simple. And I think it's important to notice and talk about how there's this polarity that continually manifests itself into our experience, which is this seed or this essence of polarity. Whatever we're offering at any moment is either poison or love. Good fruit, love, or poison fruit, evil. Right? When I say evil, I just mean fear. I just mean we're scaring people, more or less. And not only that, what we choose to associate ourselves with and continue to propagate brings about the same frequency. We need to learn, especially with all the channeling now. Like everyone and their mother seems to be channeling the highest Shekinah spirit of all the holy divine. No, most of them aren't. Most of them aren't. The way we can tell is simply by the fruits they offer. And that's really why I'm bringing this up, is because the fruits that they offer are not tangibly or in any way true. And it's challenging because on one side of the scale, I want to advocate for everyone to do spiritual work and to channel and communicate with spirit and to share that with others. That's what I would love for people to do. But people do that and they don't realize they're just sharing lots more ego and fear. And what I'm hoping is that through some of this, we can see that the ego poisons everything. Like that's all it really knows how to do. It's not really there to improve anything truly. It's more there to inspire lackful thinking or lackful orientations in entirety. So, we can't actually choose which tree we're picking from, despite what it seems like. What we're wanting to do is just notice, what tree am I consuming from, right? I'm afraid, I'm hurt, and someone said something, and now I feel like people are bad. Just people, society, let's say. Society's bad. This is because I've allowed a poisoned fruit to dictate to me, essentially, how I feel. And these people aren't really there, right? There isn't really another person to blame for these things, which is confusing, but that is the truth. So, who are we in a fight with around our own peace? Right? It's obvious that it's ourself, right? And so we're really just looking at the truth of corruption and how corruption influences us to make silly decisions that don't necessarily have anything to do with reality. The ego will sort of doubt us into a supplication or a pushing away of the will of our true God to just avoid it, if that makes sense. So we might feel this like inspiration to like do this amazing thing, but suddenly we feel sort of like, oh, I don't think it'll work. We may not even be sure why it's not going to work. I don't think we can do it that way. It's all not true. And it's very upsetting, actually, that I can hear and feel in our collective so much lack of truth, so much lack of divinity in our being here, that just, it's very sad. However, of their fruits they shall be known, there are so many people just opening their hearts and doing exactly what I'm doing here, and just trying to talk and do what they want and share whatever, which is helping essentially open up all of these things, right? All of these things are being opened up. And it's a new birth and expansion into consciousness that we didn't know before, or we forgot, right? We did know. We totally knew. We totally knew we were aliens, and this place is nuts, and it's crazy, and yeah, I mean, crazy is crazy, right? Like, we know that. So now that we know that, like, yeah, we come from places that are other places with other ideals, and we can see that this world wants us to feel powerless, but we don't agree, right? We just don't agree. I am powerful, and whatever you're saying does not have an effect on me. Not only what you're saying, what you're doing. And for myself, I'll say I've been imprisoned multiple times over this. This refusal to engage in the system. This system says that I'm suicidal, for example, and I say, "You're suicidal." Like, what do you mean? And so for me, like, making those kind of comical observations, I'm put away, right? And it's sort of like, but I'm not sad. So we get to this place where we understand that humans can't grasp it. Humans can't grasp it. So we don't need to worry about the human understanding anything. We do what we need to do. And they get it or they don't. And if they don't, then that's wonderful. That's perfect for them. It becomes this kind of like, it's wonderful that they even care to engage you, right? And so as we like expand on this tree of life, we're really just, am I building the house of Christ, or am I building a house of like fear and other shit? And we'll know, like, we'll know immediately. Like, no one has to tell you it, right? Like, you already know what you're doing. Either it's a lovely house or it isn't, right? So I think that was the main topics I wanted to cover. Let me see what's in chat. Oh my gosh, so many of you beautiful people. I'm always so surprised. Finite consumption. Sarah T says finite consumption versus infinite creation. Yes. Jackie says hi. What about timeline splits and the world ending? There isn't a world, right? There is no world to end. There is just infinite consciousness. And yeah, it's possible still. It is possible still that humans will destroy the world. So it's still a potential. I don't personally feel that that's where we're going. But yeah, it could. We could all burn up and die. Yeah, we could. We could. It's important to recognize. Maybe that's what's happening. And then what? What does that mean? What happens if all I've ever done to try and succeed is dead, right? It's freaky. It's weird. It's confusing. But none of that stuff is actually real. We don't actually have to worry about any of that. Sarah says, I agree. Those are consciousness traps, and staying there is a choice. If fear rises, turn inward and connect to your source, connection/inner light. The only way out is in. Jackie, I believe we are constantly shifting timelines, but not to stay in fear. We are here to ascend, and it's an individual job. The higher timeline is available to all. Lead by example, pave the way. Yes. Yeah, exactly. There are multiple timelines of the earth, and like one of the interesting things about like death, for example, is that all death is essentially the soul's suicide. And that might sound sad or creepy, but the soul has discerned that I'm done, so it leaves. Right? That it makes perfect logical sense. The soul is no longer needing persona experience in the physical world, so it kills itself. Not literally. It leaves, right? It's done. In other words, most of us are not done. Most of us have a lot more to do. And if the world were to just disintegrate, we would just pick it up on another place. Like, it honestly doesn't matter that much. And it seems it seems like it might. It seems like it's important, but it's really not. There are infinite places, infinite consciousnesses. There's so many other places for our consciousnesses to go to continue to learn that it doesn't really matter. If we happen to destroy the earth, we will continue to pay karmically for that debt. Humanity, maybe you could say. Jackie says, I'm trying not to, but I've been told by a few people I'm doomed because I live in New York, which I know is not a great place to be. Like, I feel like I'm excluded from the higher timeline due to that. No, Jackie, no. No, those people are insane. Whoever's saying that is insane. They're nuts. Don't listen to that type of idiocy. You are of all, with all. It does not matter at all where you sit on the continent. That's the continent. The planet itself is an illusion. This whole reality is an illusion. So where you are on it is not relevant really to anything. It's just where you happen to be. Yeah, please don't let people tell you that stuff. That's horrible. Sarah says, I see that you're divinely placed right where you're supposed to be doing the work. A lot of light workers are stationed in high density populated area. Exactly. Like she said. You know, you're where you are to be where you are. And if you're called elsewhere, then you'll go, right? You'll go elsewhere. So you don't need to really worry about it. And I'm so sorry. I'm trying to get caught up in all the comments. You guys are all beautiful. I love you guys so much. All of you beautiful souls. Beautiful people. Chad says, you can't be spiritually doomed by association. It might be physically unsafe location, but only for your physical body. Interesting. And Sarah says, focus on yourself. Yeah. Like you can't, there is no like Teal. Chat says, try listening to Teal Swan, Christina Lopez, Sean. I don't really know Teal or Christina Lopez. I have seen some of their content. I wouldn't necessarily say I align with it. However, I think that both of those individuals are beautiful, trying to help people. Entirely obvious, just trying to help. And recently, I think with Teal, there was a whole bunch of weird shit going on with that documentary. But honestly, I don't think the documentary was portraying things properly. Um, I don't perceive the documentary as being truthful. I think the documentary was trying to make her seem horrible, and it was successful if you watch it that way. Uh, Sarah says, I think it's just getting harder and harder to stay in 3D as a catalyst for people to awaken. They can always shift. Yes, the 3D world, the duality world, doesn't make any sense anymore, right? So when you pretend to be separate, your being is going to call you. It's going to say, this feels shitty. And it may not be like immediate, obvious, exactly what's shitty, but what's shitty is that you think someone's separate. That's the shitty thing. That's it. It's very simple, very normal, but it's not real, you know? Um, we're upset because we think we're separate from God. So simple. But yet, why do I have to work so hard to find this presence in myself? Like, why is it so hard to just, God's here now, right? I hear that, I get it, I'm a divine being, but where though? I don't feel it. That's, I think, where primarily many of our collective, you could say, is like, I understand that I'm a divine being, but I can't feel it. And it's hard because the challenge is that people are mad at God, but they don't recognize that they're mad at God. People are upset with God, angry with God. How dare you, God? Yet they still want God's salvation, right? Which they deserve and will have. They already have it. That's the weird thing about it is, so when I look around, for example, at beings around me, I just see angels everywhere. I honestly, that is how I see the world. Just angels are everywhere. I don't understand why they think they're fighting people. I like, it's very weird for me. Very, very weird. I don't know what they're doing. I don't understand any real human systems because of this. If a human asks me to do something, I'll probably just do it, even if it's like illegal. I won't really consider like, should I or shouldn't I'll probably just do it. You know, I'm a strange person that way, I guess. And many of us are that way. Like, many of us are just heart oriented, trying to help everyone. The issue is that we've misidentified some of our, where our help should go. We're giving it to in ways that are just not really healthy. So it's not like a problem or anything, but it's sort of like, do we want to notice the seeds that we're offering, or the fruits, you could say, that we're offering to others. Esoteric Solitaire says, watching the sun rise over the desert steppe this AM and conversing with the plants and shrubs and grasses, thanking the elements and giving thanks for seeing another day makes me feel God is right there. Yes, there is God. That's God. That's God. When nature is being in front of your eyes, God. Easy. Beautiful. Can we take that and now bring that to people? at the mall, at the gas station, you know, when we're talking to our brother-in-law who seems to be an ignorant ape. Can we do that? That's the question. We see God, I feel God. Where do I extend God to? These are the fruits that we offer, right? These are the fruits of our labor or our faith or our whatever we call it. We're always offering something to someone. So what are we offering? And can it be a purity of God? A Christ-like God? Yes, it can. Easily, in fact. So easily. We just have to get out of our way a little bit. Not get so wrapped up in placing Jesus up here. He's just so unattainable. We're not trying to be like Jesus. We're just trying to love as God would love, right? We're just trying to be as God might be. However we understand God to be is perfect. So, I think I actually have to get going. I know this is just a shorter one, but I'm so grateful for you guys coming. So beautiful. I very much appreciate all the comments, and Esoteric Solitaire, I really appreciate yours as well. Chad says, I actually believe God's wrong about a lot of things, funny as that is. Yeah, that's a good topic, actually. We should talk about that another time. I can go on for that for days about God being wrong. I mean, God couldn't be wrong, but it does seem that way. It does seem that way, and it's really funny to sort of observe it and talk about it, because it seems like God could be wrong. No, only humans are wrong. God's not wrong. God doesn't know how to be wrong. God's so innocent, so loving and merciful that there could not be wrongness there. There is no wrong in God. Couldn't be. But very interesting discussion to have, for sure. For sure. I would love to have that. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate you guys. I just wanted to come on for a little bit because I didn't get on yesterday, and I love you all, and you're all so beautiful. Beautiful people. You're all amazing. I hope you know. Thank you so much. Take care, everyone.